The Prime Minister informed the House of progress on negotiations for a major expansion by Riverina Woolcombing Proprietary Limited of its plant at Wagga and any implications that this may have for Australian industry and exports.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm delighted to be able to tell the House that the Minister for Industry, Technology and Commerce, Senator Button, has announced today that an agreement has been concluded for the Chargeurs Company, one of the world's major wool processors, to produce superfine wool tops at its Wagga plant. The announcement's a major expansion of the Chargeurs wool tops plant at Wagga Wagga and is greatly encouraging news for the Riverina region of New South Wales and for the wool industry in general. Processing, Mr Speaker, adds about 35% of the value of wool, and this will be the first plant in Australia to process superfine wool tops. Downstream value adding is of course vital to the development of the nation as a trading nation, but it's particularly vital to the primary industries of this country and to rural Australia. The expansion of the Chargeurs plant will mean $62 million in new capital expenditure, an extra $120 million a year in export earnings for Australia, 90 more jobs at the plant itself and 50 jobs in the building of it, and a boost of $340 million to the economy of New South Wales. Now, Mr Speaker, we're very pleased that the Board of Chargeurs has chosen the Riverina as a place for its development. And let me say, Mr Speaker, this expansion would not have gone ahead without the TCFDA, the Textile, Clothing and Footwear Development Authority, contributing in a material way to its success with funding. Along with most members, Mr Speaker, I'm sure it will be very, very clear to the House that the Liberal Party voted against the support coming through the TCFDA to the textile, clothing and footwear industries. In fact, the members for Curtin and Maranoa made cynical dog-in-the-manger speeches against the TCFDA funding when it was introduced in the House. And of course the member for Hume, who was sidelined by the Leader of the Opposition and not supported by him because of a challenge from the National Party in the seat of Hume. What we've seen again, it takes, as always, a Labor government to represent rural Australia. And here again, we see it again. And only the efforts of this government, and I might mention the efforts of the member for Kingston Smith as my parliamentary secretary, and the efforts of the New South Wales government have produced a benefit for workers and the wool producers of the Riverina, Mr Speaker. And I've got a copy of a letter here from the Managing Director of Chargeurs, Mr Giro, in which he describes as essential the assistance available from the TCFDA and the Development Assistance Authority. Mr Speaker, it's another example of the role government can play in making Australia better, in inducing new industries, in making Australia more relevant in the world, in adding value, in doing the things which the National Party and the Liberal Party were never able to do, and where the Leader of the Opposition had his party oppose in the Parliament funding for this particular plant. And it just makes the point again, Mr Speaker, that it's now the Liberal Party trying to change its spots to say we believe at the 11th hour that there is a role for government. We believe there is a role for us in stimulating the economy. Just disregard all that rhetoric we've been putting to you all year about how fight back is the answer. Fight back, you ought to be contracting fiscal policy. Stop trying to buy employment. Stop trying to be helping industries. That's the compassion that suffocates people. There's no role for government. Government, get out of the way. This is another example of where government has produced, as we saw with BWK at Geelong, another state-of-the-art tops-making plant, and now Chargeurs at Wagga, where we're seeing the renaissance of the Australian wool industry in terms of added value and higher levels of production, delivered by a Labor government with the policies of inclusion, the policies of a role for government, the policy of government getting involved and Australia moving together, not creating an underclass, not leaving people behind, and not saying if you try and bring them up you'll drag the rest of us down. Mr Speaker, this decision is right on the beam for the policies that provide the best things to Australia, where we can see innovation and change and added value and employment in one of the provincial centres of Australia, and is delivered, as always, with the wit inventiveness and good-spiritedness of a Labor government. Mr Speaker, I ask